for an easier sentence. Out front now, Mark O'Mara, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. So, Mark, obviously, it's going to be fascinating to be a fly on the wall for that process for Trump's team. Can you explain what happens next, sort of from now until that sentencing day, assuming that it remains on July 11th?
Yes, sure. The pre-sentence investigation that you mentioned is just that baseline, almost foundation that's done usually by the probation and parole department, just to give the judge some insight into the demographics. In this case, everyone knows what is going to be in that report, but more importantly are the sentencing presentations that are going to be made by either side. They're called aggravation. That'll be the prosecutor coming in saying, give Mr. Trump a harsh sentence and here's why. And mitigation from the other side, the defense, go and give him very little sentence, probation, whatever, and here's why. And it's going to be very interesting because the way those two present to the court is going to open up arguments one to the other. The better Trump's team says he is, the more that the state will come in and say, no, he's not. And that opens up everything from hearsay to letters to witnesses to almost innuendo as to who this person is who's about to be sentenced, because the sentencing procedure is pretty wide open as far as what you want to present.
It's incredible just to go through this. I mean, this is the system. This is the system at work. And he's obviously, as part of this, as a convicted felon prior to sentencing, I know the standard here, Mark, is for him to sit down with an interview with a probation officer. So what happens in that interview? I mean, I guess what happens in it, what do you think would happen in the case of Trump?
Well, in the case of Trump, if I'm on his team, I am not going to let him say very much to the probation officer. You cannot require it, the judge cannot require it. So I would say he's going nowhere near an interview, and the reason why is there's so much information that then would be public knowledge that could come back to haunt him in any of the other cases that he has going. And quite honestly, if I were to look at the tea leaves from this and many other cases, this judge probably has within 5 or 10% of his mind made up, not in a bad way, but you can't live this case as a judge, know the case inside out, and not already have a gut as to where you're going.
Yeah.
And sort of, let's face it, nothing that's going to be said in aggravation from the state, including the other cases pending and everything else and other whatever they want to present, nor what they're going to say as to how good a person Donald J. Trump is really going to have significant impact on the court.
It's really interesting that you say a judge would only have 5 to 10% of their mind made up. I mean, honestly, without thinking a judge is biased, I think it'd be, the other way around. Okay.
The other way. He's got
good.
90% of his mind made up.
Okay, good. That makes sense to me because I'm thinking, wow, he's been sitting there 6 weeks and he's okay. So I get it. I'm glad you clarified. I misheard you. So Michael Cohen was just here a couple moments ago, and he said, look, he wants Trump to experience what he did. He talks about how he, prison and solitary confinement stole his soul. But then he said that he thought Trump would get home confinement and he would support that because of Trump having held the office of President of the United States. Do you agree with that?
So if I would commit and be convicted of the crimes that Donald J. Trump was just convicted of, I think I would go to jail. I just think so, because if he's guilty of what they say he's guilty of, and now the jury has said so, not only is it 34 felony counts, but it's a real attack on the institution of democracy in America without getting all up on a pedestal. And that's very significant, and I think I would go to prison for it. Now, I tend to agree with Ms. Cohen's suggestion that I think the judge has to look beyond Mr. Trump in this situation and say we have a former president of the United States. We may actually also have an upcoming future president of the United States. And I think the idea of protecting that level of American democracy may outweigh the idea that Donald J. Trump, convicted felon, needs to be in prison or jail. I think he will stay at home in a very harsh home confinement setup.
It is interesting, though, these thoughts and what Judge Merchan, no doubt, is thinking. All right, thank you so much, Mark. Great to see you.